It's different when you see that person. I see that that person is screaming, but it's like, oh, I imagine it's the 5-year-old version. Will I take those things as personally, or would I think like, I'm just hearing a 5-year-old having a tantrum kind of thing?
So many leaders are fighting against their own reactions, trying to force themselves or even their team members to change through sheer willpower. Morgane reminds us that every emotional response is just a nervous system pattern meant to protect us, to meet a need, if you will. When we swap judgment for curiosity, my word for the year, we give ourselves the space to lead with real emotional intelligence. So let's dive in.
Leadership Sound Bites. Real leaders, real moments, real growth.
All right, so welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Soundbites. My very special guest, Morgan Borzee. I'm going to have to read it. Equanima. It is a smushed together word. You do stuff about EQ, which I love. You and I met on LinkedIn. You reached out, and there's obviously a number of humans that reach out with other humans. What struck me was the space that you're in and what you have passion about and how you approached it. So, Morgan, welcome to the conversation. I know you have a quote to start us off, and then if you can share with people that space that you're in and do it a little bit more justice than I did, because I know you can. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. So I'm Morgan Borzee. I'm founder at Equanima, where we aim on making emotional intelligence more accessible. We do this through training tools, a mobile app, so that we can actually make emotional intelligence much more experiential. Should I go with the quote now?
I love it. Yes, please. And let people know you're in Valencia, Spain, right?
That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I have to remember oranges. It was like when you said it, I'm like, oranges. She's in Orange, Spain.
Yes. A lot of oranges around me.
There you go. You're in the perfect place.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
So the quote of choice is no bad parts.
Oh,
This is a quote from Richard Schwartz from Internal Family Systems, which means that within every one of us there are specific parts. Some are more like fight parts, flight parts, and we want to sometimes try to eliminate them because perhaps they don't help us right now.
hmm.
But truth is that these parts have protected you from something, and they should be acknowledged and should be understood for what is the need that they're trying to protect.
Mm.
Thus, all these kind of conversation that we have in our head, like do this and do that, and then like should I do this and that? Those could be all understood as parts, uh, and the reality is that there are no bad parts. So.
It's interesting. You're taking me back. We had a pre-meeting that was scheduled for 15 minutes that went 30. And that's why I knew we need a little bit longer time for this conversation. Is that there was definitely reaction when I was talking about Coach Shirzad's saboteurs and that whole thing. And I have to agree with you, the whole word saboteur is very judgmental around the whole bad part, like there's a good and there's a bad, right? And I think the thing is, and he had a very, very challenging childhood. And I think what happens is, and saboteurs are what he's called the voices in our head, right? So Morgan, you're talking about, the narratives that drive us, that serve us as kids, and they don't serve us as adults usually, especially if they're leading the charge, okay? Or they're ahead of the game, they're in the show. And it's interesting because we can't ever eliminate them. So it's not like you're going to eradicate whatever. But it's to not hand over control to the negative narratives that are just part of us because they are early warning signs. They are indicators of things going on. Just like he talks about the hand on the hot stove or, the canary in the coal mine can be for others. And it's to pay attention and go, oh, okay, so what's happening over here? Where's that thing coming from? but not necessarily to be judgmental as if and there's a right and a wrong. And granted, there are things in life that are right and wrong. And there are also things that putting a label of this is right doesn't serve the rest of the things that aren't that thing. Because it automatically in our brains makes them wrong, air quote wrong. Yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about. Interesting thing to think about. And I appreciated that, and then you coming with this quote to be very intentional about there aren't bad. There are just some that are stronger, weaker, bad, all the stuff. But they are parts of us, as we come together and go, okay, how do we navigate in the world as the best version of us? And I think that's where your work comes in.
Yeah, I would say that when we look at these parts, we have two ways of doing this. We have an evaluative way, which is like, is this part good? Is it bad? Is it like serving me or not? And there is a curious way, without judgment, just being curious about where it comes from, when did it learn what it learned, what need is trying to protect. And it's a more compassionate one because whenever a part, especially a part that we deal with and that we see that doesn't help us, comes, the typical reaction is like, to be frustrated, like that part again, like go, like. And this type of reaction doesn't really help in order for us to change our behavior. Because when you don't listen to what that part is protecting from, this part will come back even stronger. And thus you'll have a more intense mental dialogue, let's say, where you won't end up anywhere good for change. Because change comes from also self-compassion. It's just when we accept ourselves that we are actually able to change ourselves.
Say more about that last part, because that's an interesting thing is when we have self-compassion, accept that part, we're able to change that part.
Yeah. So imagine that there are two ways of seeing life. It's like, or you are conscious of your reactive parts, or you are not, and you believe that this is part of your identity. Perhaps it's even a strength or a weakness. That's the normal mental model.
Yeah.
But when you are aware of those and you accept that they exist and they will not get away, they will not be eliminated, you can look at them with compassion. Say, like, let's say you have a submit part that makes you say yes to everything and to be super pleasing to others. And you are frustrated with that. You want to assert yourself. You want to be able to say no. Uh, this part is going to be the first thing, the first pattern that your brain reaches to when you're stressed.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the way that our brain plasticity works. It's like the route you take the more often, that's the route that will appear first. So this part will always appear. But how do you look at that? It's like, oh my God, appear again, go away. Or it's like, oh, okay, these parts serve me, perhaps in childhood, in adolescence, to overcome some situations. So it's like seeing yourself at 5 years old, or seeing Michelle 5 year old and say like, do I want to eliminate you? Or do I actually want to accept you, to give you the love you deserve because you were here to protect perhaps from the lack of love, from the hurt. And then once you accept the part, you accept that it's there and you accept that is going to be part of you for all your life, then this part is like, okay, you've seen me. I don't have to be forcefully trying to convince you that this is the action to take. And that's where you have a grounded self-response.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean.
It's interesting. I'm smiling because you take me back to a couple things, right? There was a quote that I heard, and I think I shared this with you when we met more recently, is that if you don't pay attention to the whispers, they become screams.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that comes to mind, if you take this into the corporate environment or other relationships outside of self, right? Is that my experience is if people don't feel heard in organizations, whatever, they get louder.
Mhm.
So the counter to that is exactly what we're talking about within ourselves, is create the space so people can feel heard. And when they feel heard, they're not fighting to get that information into the collective. It's
Mhm.
there. And so now we
Mhm.
can move forward. And so, yeah, I appreciate that, because then if we're not battling that, change is easier to move through because we're
Mhm.
not having barriers at every turn with at least that aspect of self. So, yeah.
And let's think about it in another way because we are talking about how we perceive ourselves. But let's talk about organizations like a team dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when I understand that different reactive behaviors go part to different responses like the fight, the flight, the freeze?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I have a teammate that goes into a fight response. And I understand what it means. I understand that this team member has gone back to their 5-year-old version of themselves where they have dealt with some hurt and they are recreating that response based on that old pattern. I stop thinking, what's wrong with them? But what must have happened to them? Because those type of reactive reactions, they're not around the present moment. They're about wounds that get triggered with the present moment. So it's also a different way of relating to each other, of understanding what happens when people get triggered and they get reactive. And it's different when you see that person. I see that that person is screaming, but it's like, oh, I imagine it's the 5-year-old version. Will I take those things as personally, or would I think like, I'm just hearing a 5-year-old having a tantrum kind of thing? It's not about like be like pleasing with those type of behavior, but it's about having a different mental model for when things get stressful and reactive.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I never thought about thinking about adults as the 5-year-old response. Um, it creates empathy. I mean, it surfaces empathy in us, right? The other part that I say to where you're not pulling 5-year-olds in is that my experience is that difficult or challenging people are screaming, throwing a temper, whatever it may be, have unmet needs. And
Mhm.
so what you're talking about is this situation that it's triggered fight or flight, freeze, fawn, whatever it may be. And we're not going to get through to that human in their current
Mhm.
state. It's just not going to happen because
Exactly.
literally they're responding as if their life is in danger. And so they're not hearing anything. The
Mhm.
walls are up, the drawbridge is pulled up, all the thing. And
Mhm.
so a lot of it with leaders, it's interesting because you're talking about team environments, is for leaders to reframe it from this difficult, challenging disruptor, whatever it may be, right? To, okay, or maybe it's a one up or a peer, whatever it may be. They have unmet needs. They're the child that has wounds, same kind of thing. Is what are they? How can we calm this, right? To be able to close those gaps so that we can move forward. And it is transformational in relationships with people when we're not approaching it with judgment, because people feel it, then they get louder,
Mhm.
and we approach it with empathy. And it doesn't mean that you're letting people get away with stuff, right? Air quote, get away with things, because that's what leaders think. Well, I'm letting them off the hook. Off the hook of what?
Mhm.
First, meet them where they're at, understand what's going on, what's getting in the way,
Mhm.
so that they have a chance at being, a better performer or a contributing teammate, whatever. Because no one drives to work wanting to be that human.
Mhm.
They don't do that. They don't wake up in the morning and go, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get to work so I can be a jerk or, disruptor or what. People don't do that. There may be some, and if that's you, I'm sorry, but the vast majority of us just don't do that. So, yeah, I love the idea of reframing. And then I know, and I haven't done this before, but you've developed a tool. So if you can share with whoever else you developed it with a little bit of background on it and where it came from, because what I love about this, Morgane, is it takes these things that can be so conceptual And it gives you some tangible thing to be able to do with it and start understanding these moving parts and pieces. Because I'm
Mhm.
sure you've been doing this for more than a minute. I've got, my gosh, a couple decades of my own improvement that I've gathered up all these little nuggets and tidbits and different perspectives. And so I can walk into something going, well, that's like that, and that's like that, and that's like that. Yet I know with certainty, because I've been in that space, when you step into something that you're not familiar with, and someone goes, well, that's like that, and that's like, you're like, I don't even have a baseline for this stuff. So I think what I loved about the approach that you took was, like you said, you pulled all these different aspects of this thing together.
Yeah,
That's
I
my
think that
version of it. What's yours?
Well, just so a bit of background, I come from a user experience educational background. So I've always been finding ways of making things much more intuitive, easier to remember, and especially much more accessible. And when we talk about emotional intelligence, is either so abstract or so lecture type.
Hmm.
So it's like I'm going to tell you about what self awareness means and what self regulation means. And the problem is not around definitions, the problem is around practice and having mental models for when things get stressful.
Mhm.
And this is where using characters, narrative, and storytelling becomes so useful. So you have the mental model now, like the next person, the next time you will see someone screaming, you're gonna think the 5-year-old person.
Uh-huh.
And that's the type of shortcut and mental models that we want people to really absorb, because within all the newest psychoeducation theories, there is such richness of frameworks. We work with nonviolent communication, with internal family systems, with very important frameworks that really help people have the right narrative and also a little bit of like challenge these other, let's say, mantras in society of no pain no gain, sleep is for the weak. There's just push through that are actually disconnecting us from our body, which is our compass, and really disconnecting us from the emotional side, which is so relevant for every aspect of human life.
Yeah. So, whatever intro you want to make, into what that looks like, because I love the examples when we did um, the prep call, the intro call of
Mhm.
just the way that people can have the visual attached to the words and the meaning. And because a lot of times I know when I'm coaching, people can't, and I feel it, they're not grasping the word to describe the feeling. And
Mhm.
when I'm coaching with them, that word comes to me and I'll say the word, and there's a calm that comes over them because they're like,
Mhm.
yes, that's the word. And so for me, when I saw the visual, the interactive part, I think it creates calm for people when they can land on language that has meaning for them, that then settles this ambiguity, this unknown, to go, okay, yeah, I can define that. Yes, I can define that. And then we know what to do with it once, because before that, I think a lot of people just don't know what to do with it. There's this thing that just shows up and I feel this way. And yeah.
Yeah. So just to give you an example, here we have a little bit of the protective responses. These are basically how we have used characters to really basically put some nervous system responses into a language that people can understand with, and using design to foster self-compassion and curiosity. So people might be familiar with the fight and flight, but there is such a diverse subtypes of how this can shape behavior. A fight response can be about being hypervigilant or avoiding vulnerability, or a flight response can also be around not only procrastinations but also workaholism, because at the end you're pushing your world away to go to work. digital dependency, very common. So these are just different ways those protective responses can actually start in a reactive place. So we also have a few not lesser known parts like the submit. Some people know it as phone, or the attach, the clinginess, the neediness of having a one protector to help us deal with the stressful situation. So in this, and using the characters, what we create is like psychological distance, so that we don't take these traits as identity, which some people have related those to identity, like I'm the perfectionist type or I'm the workaholic type. And it's like, is this your identity, your personality, or is it just a stress response, a nervous system response? And let's consider that nervous system responses are biologically wired. So we are wired for them. They're natural. Obviously, they need to correspond to the stress level, and our stress level and stress, let's say, stressors have changed a lot from the first times we dealt with tigers and lions to the modern world. So with this, the idea is that people can relate to this and can create some common language. So let's say a team has a conversation around which are the typical protective response of each of one. And the fact that the characters are nice and welcoming, it makes shame goes away. Because normally if we just have like a cold conversation, like let's talk about your unhealthy behavior, it's like nobody is going to open up there. But if we're looking at cards, where the most common questions I hear when the cards are in display is, can I choose more than one? So they're really drawn to be curious about them. And if I choose, for example, the decision paralysis one, what is the need? So we go into the needs part. What is the need that is protecting? Is protecting a need for repair or collaboration or emotional safety? So what is the need behind? Because a lot of people, again, they just talk about strategies like, I need this person to behave this way, or I need this leader to do this, or I need this promotion. But what is actually the need underneath? Because perhaps the strategy is not really tailored to the need. It's what you think because you haven't really had a moment to think about those. And we have even a weird, like said, like needy is a bad word. Like, right? It's like, but if we are not in touch with this, it's really hard to have a conversation.
I love it. And you're absolutely right. Is that, and people throw need around a lot, leaders do. You know, I need you to do that, I need you to do that, I need you to be able to perform in the role that you're in. My response a lot of times is that be careful of the language we use, right? Because it can also communicate to the other person they're doing you a favor, right?
Yeah.
So if they're going to be doing this thing because you need them to do this thing,
Mhm.
then they're doing you a favor. Their brain's going to prioritize it wherever it prioritizes stuff because they got to do their stuff first. Versus
Also,
part of your job in this role is to do these things. So the leader does not need them to do it. They actually need to do it themselves in order to perform in the role that they're in. So it's an interesting thing when we get into that stuff. But yeah, needs, um they can feel bad, like you're lacking something, like you're not, yeah, you're not whole.
Mhm.
Interesting animal.
And it's interesting when we have interpretations, because there is a lot of assertiveness talk about starting with I. If I start with I, everything is good, right? And then we go into, I feel betrayed, or I feel threatened, or I feel ignored. And this can look assertive, but the problem is that these words are really not feelings. They are interpretations of somebody else's behavior towards us. So when I say I feel rejected, I need actually somebody to reject me. So I'm talking about that behavior. And what I'm actually doing when I use those words is I'm blocking empathy and I'm putting the other person in a defensive mode. And their next line is going to be, I didn't rejected you, ignored you, insulted you, mistreated you. And then the conversation is going on the wrong track. So, how important is language when we understand what an interpretation from a real feeling? I feel hurt, I feel frustrated, I feel disappointed. It's very hard to say, like, no, you don't feel frustrated. Like, okay, I can understand, I can empathize. Because what? Because I was needing respect, because I was needing emotional support. So it's a different way of seeing assertiveness, and also using language in a way that can help to resolve conflict and can help to have a more empathetic conversation.
And it's interesting because it keeps ownership where it belongs, right? Because the feeling that the things that happen to get us to a certain feeling, we have control around the narrative around what that stuff is that leads to that. And so to put it onto somebody else, you're absolutely right, creates this defensiveness, and the awareness around the language and the ownership matters. And this helps to separate out, because the other human's intention was most likely not to disrespect, anger, whatever it may be. And so it creates a different conversation to help actually unpack what's going on.
Yes. So let's look, for example, at another tool that we've created. This is an interactive tool around emotional map. Which is one of the struggle of people is that they have such a limited vocabulary. It's like they're awful, great, or nice. Neither of those are feelings, or they are stressed or angry or sad, like three flavors. And for pleasantness, only one flavor, happy. That's it. And when we have such a limited vocabulary, we're lacking of important nuance and granularity in order for us to understand what's happening. And what's the most common thing is like, I don't know what's happening, I just feel off, and I have this sense of powerlessness because I don't understand this experience. So here, what's interesting is that you have pleasantness to the right side and pleasantness to the left, but you also have arousal. So anger and excitement feel high arousal in the body. Sadness and calmness feel like low arousal in the body. So when we're thinking about coping strategies, it's not just going from left to right, it's going from opposite angles. So it's like, what do I do that makes me feel calm whenever I feel angry or anxious? And what's make me feel motivated and excited whenever I'm feeling sad? So it's a different mental model for coping strategies. And when I'm anxious, what's exactly the flavor of that? Is it like worried, which is more like future oriented emotion? Is it more like tension, which is a present oriented emotion? And it's about pairing that. You cannot pair a need with feeling awful. It's like, what's the need that goes with awful? Now, what's the need that goes with tension? Perhaps peace, rest, emotional safety. What's the need that goes with worried? Perhaps clarity, stability. So we are talking much more finely here. When we have very precise word for emotions, we have very precise word for needs, which means that we are able to articulate ourselves better when things go wrong, and we are able to have better relationships in life, which is key for leadership, but also key for happiness. Because every study in the world, or most of those, have put like real quality relationships in life as the number one factor for happiness in general.
It's interesting. There's so many layers here, obviously, and then by design, is that we do, and I go back to Sean Akers' work of Happiness to Manage and others, is we abdicate the ownership, responsibility, control over our own happiness and the way we feel to external stuff. And it can show up in ways like this. It's like, well, my whole day is ruined because they did blah, 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 blah. What? Like, what? Your whole day? Because of some external? No. It's interesting, I think, because this stuff, there are so many layers to the words that people, and like I heard you say earlier, is your body will be able to tell you. It gives you signs of what's going on. So if you're going through the array of word choices, right, and what's going on, you can tap into your body to go, what resonates with me right now? What feels like the best fit, with what I'm feeling right now? And it does give you a broader choice of words to describe the space you're in. Instead of a lot of times you'll say, how are you doing? Okay. What is okay? It's like, oh, there's a little halfway gray check mark someplace that goes, I'm okay.
Yes. The okay one is the worst one. I
Yeah.
think that going back to what you mentioned about really starting from your place of ground is the body signal, which is something that we normally either ignore or just like try to push them away. But they are telling us something. When you have sweaty palms, cold sweat, goosebumps, back pain, emptiness, lack of energy, all of these are signals. And we have to be really careful and really mindful of what they are telling us. So, how Equanima makes things experiential is actually we can start making patterns. So you can see, like, oh, clenching jaw is something that I do whenever I feel like I have a perfectionist part going in. I also feel like a muscle tension here. And this usually comes with a sense of overwhelm. Or perhaps there is another feeling here. Perhaps it comes when I feel like anxious. So it's an idea of making that pattern. And then what could be the need? The need behind could be competence or perhaps a sense of emotional support. So it's a way of visually doing those patterns so that things can stick and things can also have a different shape in the coaching realm. So it's very different to have a conversation about this that can be insightful but can stay abstract versus engaging your whole brain, not just the language part of your brain, but the visual part, the spatial part, the interactive part, so that you are co-creating the pattern that you're seeing and making it in so have less of this sensation of powerlessness over what comes next, because it's now, oh, now I'm putting all the puzzle pieces together and I'm seeing what is the pattern here. And you can start wherever it feels easier, in the protective responses, in the body signals, in the feelings. So whatever entry point feels like much more natural to you, you can start and you can see what is the need, what is the feeling, what is the protective response, and the body signal. And there you have what I call a system thinking view of emotional intelligence. Not just talking about emotions, but talking about everything that comes. If you want another layer, you can add even a belief. So, like, for example, you can add that I have the belief that I will never be enough, right? And this is the belief not of me, it's the belief of this perfectionist part. This is what the perfectionist part believe. When did this perfectionist part learn I will never be enough? Because we don't tend to challenge those once they get instilled in our memory, they get on the subconscious. But if we are not challenging them, like, oh, perhaps I learned from, like being bullied at school, or another situations, I never updated the software of it until you have it very clear.
It's interesting because I go back to um, hypnotherapy certification program that I went through probably 3.5, 4 years ago. And in that is just all the learning in the subconscious and those timeline points, if you will, that happen through growing up. And a lot of it is to be able to come back to that child that it impacted. And, one of the activities is you can go back and meet that child wherever it was and bring that child forward with you. You can give that child that hug they needed, that whatever, that approval. Because what humans don't realize, or maybe they do, is that those moments from childhood, unless you highlight them, confront them, shine a light on them, they're driving the adult you are today. And you don't even realize where this stuff's coming from. You're like, and then you go and own it as part of your identity. And when you do that, then your brain does everything in its power to make sure that what you do and your behaviors align with your identity. So you've got this hamster wheel thing going on, that the way out, the exit ramp, is so much easier than what we realize. Just a lot of people don't realize how to do it. Like you said, I'll never be enough. Where did that come from? Well, it came because I was always getting in trouble. Or my parent cared about me so much because they were learning how to be a parent like I was learning to be a kid. And they cared enough that they didn't want me to make the same mistakes they did. So they were pointing out all the stuff that I did wrong all the time. And there was never any celebration. So the message that got put into my child is I'm never enough. It's never good enough. I never get praised. I'm obviously making stuff up. But then again, I'm a recovering perfectionist. I'll own that, that I've had to let that go because that was driving so much of who I was. That now it's like it's an interesting thing when you're able to shine a light on it, visualize it the way that you're doing, which is a form of that, to be able to then go in and unpack it and go, okay, we don't need this anymore. I see where this came from. You're free. I'm going to let you go. And this stuff's very empowering because people will say to me, Morgane, in a session, I know it's going to take a long time or not. It can literally take a nanosecond that you realize what's going on and everything unlocks and boom, it's
But
done.
it can take a nanosecond, that's true. But the thing and the important thing, and that's why memorability is so important, is that that pattern, that previous pattern, will come back again. And unless you have something to hold on to this new insight, like the bunny submit, then it's going to be really easy to derail again, especially when stress gets high.
Yeah.
So the idea is that Equanima is not just about, okay, give the coach a methodology so they can have insightful moments right in the beginning. It's about how we prolong this to become more memorable to the client so that when they are in that situation, and that's a lovely thing about the typical comments that we get, is like, oh, my client just called me and discovered that the submit response actually it came in a different way. It came like, oh, over apologizing. I noticing I was saying sorry all the time, sorry, and I didn't even do anything wrong. So it's like it creates a shortcut and a visual reference, because when you see the rabbit, it's like, oh, okay, the rabbit is here. Perhaps you're not able to stop the behavior. It's like, I'm gonna say yes, but I know it's my rabbit here, so it's that awareness. Perhaps you're going to continue to say yes to things you wanted to say no for a month, but you're going to be aware. And when you are aware, there is at some point where you're going to have choice. So when choice enters, you're going to be able to say, actually, I'm going to say no, because you are aware enough of this part and you have become conscious about, okay, when I'm about to over apologize, I have the muscle tension, I have a stomach discomfort. I have my voice get quiet, of course. So whenever I'm feeling again, like my voice is getting quieter, rabbit, okay, what I want to choose now, my submit part that drives the wheel, or my adult self that knows better.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say like, hey, submit side, I know you're here to protect me. I know better. I can protect you. Everything is going to be fine if I say no, right?
Yeah. I love that. I'm sitting here grinning because there are so many other examples, and you're absolutely right. Is I had one client that when I was talking to her, and a lot of it, Morgan, is about education with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Creating
Mm-hmm.
awareness that it's
Mm-hmm.
here's the rest of the story. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, and what's happening in the background. So you piece it together with cards, visuals, all that stuff to make the narrative, because people remember stories. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'll describe to them what's happening with you activate the amygdala, you send yourself into fight or flight. In our body response, like there's a hungry tiger that it needs to get us away from. I mean, it's that kind of response.
Mm-hmm.
She preferred polar bear. So she said, I will remind myself in those moments, just like your little rabbit. She goes, there's no polar bear. There's no
Mm-hmm.
polar bear. So anything like that, that we start to break, Tony Robbins calls breaking patterns, right? You talk about
Mm-hmm.
patterns. So it's
Mm-hmm.
anything like that that will pull it in. This is an awesome visual to create awareness for people, because I joke that awareness is the first step in recovery. And it is. It's like
Yeah.
we need to become aware. Where do you feel in your body? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
What's actually happening? What narrative do you have going? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are like a white rabbit in Alice in Wonderland. You know, I'm late, I'm late, I'm late. I don't have any time. There's no time to do it. It's like, okay, when you're feeling that, you're in fight or flight,
Mm-hmm.
calm yourself. And it's as simple as telling yourself there's plenty of time to get everything done that needs to be done. There's
Mm-hmm.
plenty of time to get everything done that needs to be done. And when we say it a couple times, there's a calm that washes over us. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
the rabbit, the whatever else it may be, the little tiger cub, whatever's happening. It is that thing that breaks the pattern
Mm-hmm.
that we then have choice, to your point, to go off in another direction. It's cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's cool stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
So, um, how do people use this? Do you find individuals use it? Is it just coaches that are using it? Do you have leaders that can do it with their team? Because I think about all these different options that, like, I do disc and change management and all that stuff, and I'm a huge proponent for teams learning together to
Mm-hmm.
create awareness. So there's a shared language, there's all that stuff. What do you find that how people use this?
Right now, we are especially going to coaches, therapists, counselors, educators, um, people leading teams. So, everybody that works with the human layer of things, with the emotional layer of things, is basically the typical user of both the Equanima Studio, which is the set of tools that we just shared, but also the certification program that we have at Equanima, which comes with all the methodology and the different frameworks that we've create a structure around.
Yeah,
We also have a mobile app that is for users in general. It's a free mobile app so that people can start to get that awareness app.
yeah,
Uh, it's both on Google and Apple Store. I call Equanima, Equanima Mood Tracker. And what it does is also with the same frameworks provide a bit the why, the what's happening, because most, let's say, trackers, it's like they are slight. Again, awful, great, which is like not giving you any emotional literacy at all. So with the Equanima app, what you can do is just, let's say, write a little situation like I had a fight with my boss. You don't even have to say any emotion. And it will suggest emotion needs influences for you to say, oh, perhaps I was needing respect, perhaps I was needing appreciation. And over time, you can get those patterns and understand where are the typical body signals that come with
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, or what are the typical influences that come with frustration, or when you feel grateful, what's the typical need that is being met? Perhaps is partnership, is connection. So it's about integrating all of this vocabulary and giving you an emotional map so that you can understand this very abstract experience and put it into words. Because at the end, we believe language is the base. Language is the way we understand things, we communicate those, and this is primarily affecting all our relationships. So if we get a good language, if we start to be more mindful about our words, about both how we talk to each other, but also how we talk to ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
then there is big change that can happen.
Mm-hmm. I agree. There's words are emotionally charged. And yeah, I'm one of my favorite things is to say words matter. And the most important ones are the ones we say to ourselves.
Yeah,
So yeah.
definitely.
Uh
And what you mentioned about teams, this is something that at Equanima we're doing as well. We're entering business schools where people like MBAs are getting prepared so that when they are managers, they already
yeah,
have a baseline of emotional intelligence. We're also creating partnership program for people going into organizational coaching so that they can use the tools, as you mentioned, with the team, so they have a shared language. Because
yeah.
what we see a lot happening in organization is that they do this 1 year 3 hour training, and like it's great, like everybody has fun and all good, but it doesn't stay, it doesn't stick, it
Mm-mm.
doesn't change culture. So changing culture is about that, building that shared language, as you mentioned. Everybody in the team understand what are the nervous system responses to stress. They understand what are the needs behind the strategies, and they
Mhm.
can talk about needing reliability or needing collaboration or needing autonomy, instead of I just want remote work, for example. It's about what's the need behind, and in that is that we can create really good change, which is very, very needed,
Mhm.
especially at this point in the world with burnout, with the rapid AI change that is happening, and the fear that it provokes in people, especially when change comes so fast.
Mhm. Yeah, it's an interesting, it's cool. It's just it's a cool tool. I'm gonna look more into it. Like I said, I got really excited when you and I met on the intro call, and I'm just like, this is a layer that's gonna help more people that um have not wrapped their brain around it yet, or it is just this word that people have, 15 different definitions for emotional intelligence or this phrase. Um, I think it's a really cool thing to help humans better understand what's going on within themselves and then have an appreciation, empathy for others as well. So yeah. Um, Thank you for the time. What are one or two things that you'd love people to walk away with from all the stuff that you shared and that we chatted about?
I think be conscious about what will be the patterns in everyone's reactive responses, and to become very curious about
Mm.
them. To not become judgmental to them. It's about understanding what the need is behind, to understand that every emotion is not bad or good. It's just an indicator of a met need if it's a pleasant emotion, or an unmet need if it's an unpleasant emotion. So look at as data, as pieces of information. If you feel anxious, if you feel frustrated, what's the need behind?
Mm.
Because when you have that answer, then you can actually have a strategy in order to make your life more pleasant and, let's say, improve your well-being.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just gonna exclamation point on the curiosity approach. Um, you said it when we were chatting, and I just want to reinforce it. In order to show up with curiosity, we do suspend judgment and we go in open-minded. And when we do that, the person on the receiving end of that curiosity knows it, feels it. And they won't, or their subconscious won't automatically go into fight or flight. Because when we show up a judgment, I guarantee you, regardless if you have a smile on your face or not, the other person feels it and they will defend. I mean, just automatically. So yeah, it's a cool thing. I love tools to where humans are able to create a better experience for themselves and other people around them. So thank you. I will put contact info for you in the description. Again, Morgan, I appreciate your time. It's cool stuff. It's cool stuff. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah.
I'm really glad it resonates. It has been a lovely conversation.
Yeah, it's been fun. I appreciate you sharing. So this is Leadership Soundbites with Michelle Morgane. Until next time, please like, share, subscribe. Thank you for doing so and have an awesome, awesome day. Thank you.